One good morning to all the participants who have joined us today. We have a lot of participants today, close to 100 people have joined us for just one name, that is Gotha Hari Priya. And she's been, first of all, we are honored and we are so glad to have Gotha Hari Priya talk for us, talk about parenting, the myths and mistakes in today's parenting, coordination with DLearners. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's an honor to have you. Without further ado, I'm just going to hand it over to ma'am. So it will be, once ma'am finishes, we'll have the question and answer session. Before that, if you guys have any questions, please do put it on your chat and then I will take it up with ma'am. And also requesting all the participants to go on mute so that there will not be any disturbances and everybody can hear it very clearly. So over to you, ma'am.
Good morning, all of you, and welcome. I hope all of you are having a good Sunday. It's not a very structured session. I thought I'll just do this for as a very relaxed, going with the flow with all of you, discussions and of that sort. So yeah, I know parenting is a huge topic today because we no longer know what we're doing. Is it right? Is it not right? So I'm just 1 minute. So I'm just thinking why everybody's videos on off. Why aren't there more people giving me company? So I'm just like looking at my own face and talking. As it is, because of the pandemic, I don't get to meet you all. And it's more fun if I have more people. Hi Soumya, hi Jagna. Thank you so much for giving me company. So yeah, the topic given to me was what are the myths and mistakes in today's parenting. I think I'm going to ask the question back to you. What do you think are the myths and mistakes that you see around you in parenting? What do you think are the mistakes that as a whole all of us are doing? Obviously, it's easy to find out mistakes in other people's parenting. So I want you to think about other people, what they're doing wrong. It doesn't have to be about you. You can use the chat window, you can unmute and speak.
I feel that anger as an emotion is considered very wrong. It's perceived very wrong by everybody around us. Like whether it is an adult or a child, especially when a child gets angry. So that's something I really want to, understand better.
Yes. Megla says too much of pampering. Yes, that is a mistake that we all do. We will talk more about all of this. Just looking for more things for us to discuss about. So I think basically by now all of us know, majority of us know, there is so much of awareness on parenting, on Instagram, on the public forum about what's going. Elaborate eating habits. Yes.
I feel they're not understanding child's emotion in the first place. They think like as a parent, they know that I know everything what is good for my child in order to understanding what a child needs and what a child expects.
Not thinking of the child. Crying is not accepted. Okay. What else? People don't listen to the kids. Okay, so that's a huge mistake.
Hi, ma'am. Anu here. I keep hearing that we cannot take care of the kid on our own. We need always somebody. As I'm going to join work in 2 months, like I'm having a 2 months old baby. I'm keep hearing this again and again that it's very difficult to take care of the kid on your own. You always need somebody around with you. And if you pamper the kid, like if you always hold your kid, your baby won't leave you. She'll be always around you. Those kind of things I'm keep on hearing. So I thought this session will help me to understand all those.
Okay, so that's a huge myth that you think is not true. That you can handle the baby alone, and that too much holding them too much is not good. So thank you for sharing. Charlie says we don't listen to the child. Okay, so that's one more myth. People keep instructing the kid. They don't keep controlling the kid. Parents and grandparents are not coordinated. I don't think I need to speak at all. Everybody knows the myths and mistakes in today's parenting. So, of all this, there are some more pointers which I want to add. The mistakes, which I wouldn't say mistakes, I would rather frame it like challenges, but mistakes and people are like, so they kind of sit up and they want to listen more when you put strong words like that. But I wouldn't say mistake. I would rephrase it like, the challenges that we all face in everyday parenting is what I was thinking I should address today. One huge thing, everybody wants to know is how to make the child obedient, how to make the child listen to me, how to make the child cooperate. So like everything, like all relationships, children also reflect what we give them. So I always say my philosophy in parenting is very simple. Treat the child the way you want to be treated by your spouse, by your husband or your mother-in-law or your mother or your friend. So just treat them the way you want somebody to treat you, which is with respect, to be accepted, to be loved. You want to have a sense of belonging. This is the search for every human on this planet, and children are no different. Okay, and the next thing which I keep mentioning is, just because they're small in size, this is the biggest myth that we have. Just because they're small in size, we think that everything is small for them. We think that their brain is small, their intelligence is small, their emotions are small. We kind of tend to treat them like dolls. We treat them like blobs of cuteness who just come to live with us till a certain age, till they go out on their own and start earning. So this is what we think of as parenting and raising a child. But it's not that. I want to remind you that children are just small on the outside. Their bodies are small. They are growing to become like us. And just because we came 30 years before them, ahead of them, it doesn't mean that we are greater than them in any way except for the physical size. So I'm saying on the inside, we're all made up of the same stuff. They feel the exact pain that we feel. They feel the exact needs that we have. So we're all the same on the inside. So which means that the way we treat children, like they don't know anything. I have to do something. I have to take care of them. I have to make something out of them. I have to mold them. They're like clay. I have to mold them. All these are huge myths. So children are super intelligent, which I'm very sure all of you know already, that they are much more advanced. They have much more IQ than we do today. They're very smart. They can figure out things very easily. All of us know this, but somehow we do not let it sink in deeper. We just we appreciate their intelligence, and when they don't behave the way we want them to behave, we kind of make them go away. Like we wish they were not there. We wish they were invisible. So the way I see it in today's life, we want children to be to our convenience. When they're convenient to us, we are okay with them. When they become an inconvenience to us, we treat them like they're invisible. This is true. Like wherever you go, it's a very adult-centric world. The world revolves around adults. Nobody considers that either a child can how is this going to affect the child? How is this going to be in the child's perspective? So we kind of like treat them like they're very invisible, and then we expect them to be like perfect, cute little dolls. So we treat them like dolls and expect them to be like dolls and be in our control, do what we expect them to do, which is bound to fail because they are human beings, human babies, just tiny human beings. That's it. So the more and more we control them, the more and more you will see that they are not in sync, the more and more out of control that they go. What do we do? So we'll talk about that a little later, but before that, this is one first myth that I wanted to break, that children are made up of the same stuff that we are made up of. They are just smaller in size. Their body, their outer body is just smaller in size. Okay. Next biggest myth I wanted to break is they usually keep saying, when you keep giving a lot to your child, they will become out of control. So you have to discipline them, you have to punish them, you have to be forceful with them for them to become a good human being. Okay, so I want to go back and question this and ask you, where did we get this belief? So what is the belief about children, inherent belief all of us have about children? Do we think that they are born bad and then we have to do something with them so that they don't become worse? So we have to keep reinforcing certain things so they become good. So that's where this comes from, right? But that's such a illogical belief, because when we are born, everybody is born pure, whole and complete. Where did we get the idea that if I don't punish my child, if I don't discipline my child with force, they will turn out to be bad? Okay, I want you all to think about this, because in my point of view, I believe that children are beautiful imitators. They just imitate what they see. So if there is something at all that you want to change in your child, it's a clear mirror. They're mirrors, just mirrors. They're so pure and clean that they are beautiful mirrors. They only show you what they see. So when you have a problem with whatever your child is doing, it's a clear indicator that for us to change, for us to go back and think about, okay, so if I want my child to be punctual, if I want my child to be more patient, if I want my child to be more organized, if I want my child to listen to me more, what should I do? So it's usually it points directly back to us and says that I have to be more punctual, I have to be more organized, I have to be more calm and gentle with my child, I have to respect my child. And finally, about listening, I have to, hear my child more, receive my child more. I always keep saying that, we are people who will remember a teacher so many more years later. We all have that favorite teacher, and then we will do anything for that teacher. When we were small, we used to be in a place where I hate doing this, but I just do it because this person asked me to do. So when it comes to a favorite person, we are ready to go to any extreme to do things for them, to cooperate with them just because they asked us to. So that is the kind of relationship I want to have with my child, rather than forcing, punishing, pushing them. So if I'm on the favorite people list, obviously my child will pause for a minute and consider what I'm asking of them, and then we can have a discussion around it. So this is the answer for how do I make my child listen to me. So the myth number 2 that we are currently focusing on is that we don't need to do anything with the child. We just have to let them be. If at all we want to do anything, it's only with us, because children are just imitating. So all of your questions would begin with, how do I make my child do blah 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 blah, or how do I deal with this blah blah blah. The first answer would usually be, see if this is part of your environment and see if you can change that environment. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, the biggest it's like the big thing that we all don't talk about, but I think we have to. There is a lot of awareness around this, but in spite of that, I see a lot of myths surrounding this. So we think that the only way we allow a child to grow physically is by force feeding them. So a lot of habits around food reflects on their behaviors, on their discipline, on their relationship with their body. So there are two mistakes that we constantly do with children, and this is something we speak a lot about because we do this a lot. 3 meals a day, and for every day. Abhilash, can you mute? These are 100 people, it's hard for... Can everybody keep your mics on mute, because it's disturbing in between and I hear this. So 2 things that we do around meal times is force feeding and distraction feeding. So I'll talk to you about why you shouldn't distraction feeding na first, and what all comes under distraction feeding is showing screens, taking them outside, playing in the water, showing them books, toys. So anything which takes them away from being engaged with the food that they're eating is considered as distraction. Why we don't distraction feed is because today when we sow the seeds for distraction feeding, it could become a long-term effect on their health. So when we are distracted as adults today, we don't know when to stop. We don't know when we get full, so we tend to overeat. And overeating is said to be the biggest pandemic today. It's the foundation for most of lifestyle illnesses that we face: diabetes, hypertension, heart disease. All of that is because we are consuming much more than we should consume, because we do not have the body awareness then to understand that my body is saying I'm full. This is how much I'm hungry, this is how much energy I need. So I am done, don't eat more than this. So body will clearly tell you, and then we will keep eating more because we're distracted, because we didn't listen to that signal which comes from the body. So when we start doing this for young children, we are erasing the capability of them to listen to this message. So the more and more the child says no, the more and more we feed them, we are telling them that it's not your choice, it's my choice. It's, even though it's your body, I get to decide the rules, I get to decide what is good for you. So more and more we keep overriding this, their internal voice, and keep putting our voice on top of that. The child grows up with a lot of disconnect from their body, from their voice. So I always say that distraction feeding can lead to long-term consequences. So it might seem like, it's just a phase, but the impacts of it you will face later on. In fact, as an adult, it took me so long. It is taking me a lot of effort, I'm still work in progress, to have a healthy relationship with my body, and to think that at the beginning things were okay till we changed all of that and made it worse. So no to distraction feeding is because of that. It puts a huge it puts the relation, it puts a very unhealthy relationship with our own body and with our food. So the idea of distraction feeding them is so that they stay healthy. But what is real health? What is what are we trying to teach children? These are questions that I want you all to think about. Next thing is force feeding. So it's a huge trigger for me to see a child being force fed, because when each mouth that you feed a child, when they are saying no, when you're forcing food down their throat, I see this as a form of punishing the child. And it's even more harmful, because we think it's okay, we think we're doing it out of love, but every mouth that you force into them after they say no, it's a form of violence against them. So if this was done without food, if this was done for lust, we call this rape. But because this is food and this is considered as a form of love, it is acceptable behavior. Somehow this has been normal. But on deeper thought, you can understand that every time the child says and we force them to eat, we are doing them a huge injustice. Okay. I'm sure there are plenty of questions about how to make our children eat. We will deal with it later. But for now, I want you to at least think about the idea that what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Is this okay? So every time you say no and you feed your child, there's also another subtle message that you're telling them, that if you want, when somebody is saying no, you can continue doing what you want, even if that person is saying no. So tomorrow, the same child is doing something and you're asking them to stop, and you're asking them and you're telling them, no, don't do it, stop. And then they'll be like, no, Sari, I'll continue doing, because that's what you have shown me meal after meal when I'm eating. And I'm saying, no, you continue feeding me, right? So I will also think that when you say no, you don't have to respect it. So the same child, when they go into preschool and another child is telling them, no, don't touch me, I don't like it, don't come near me. And you will see that your child is constantly overriding somebody's boundaries. Somebody is clearly saying no, and then we are overstepping it, and then there is a conflict. So the other child is now going to get violent, and they will get aggressive. This is something that Abhilash can. There is an option where participants cannot unmute. Can you turn that on for me?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. I have muted everyone right now.
There is also another option where they cannot unmute even by mistake.
I'll check that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So these are two things that I keep talking about a lot in whenever I get the opportunity, to force feeding and distraction feeding. Why? Because we do this a lot from 6 months. We do this for so many years that then we do it for 3 meals a day. So assuming that every meal is for an hour, running behind them, feeding them, all of that, and the irritation the parent feels, the failure the parent feels, all of that, let's say for 3 hours a day, and the child is awake for 8 to 10 hours in Vechitalu, 8 to 10 hours, like 3 hours, you are struggling and in constant conflict upping about your relationship will obviously be questionable. So when people ask me how I'm able to do this, how I have this kind of a relationship with Saragan, the first answer which always blinks for me is meal times. we used to respect his choices during meal times. So we have a relationship of respect between the both of us throughout. So another very interesting question that I want to ask you is, a child who was who decided how to feed from the time they're newborn till they're 6 months, they were surviving on breast milk, and they decided when I want to eat, how much I want to, when I want to drink milk, how much I want to drink milk, when I should stop, when I'm feeling full. All this awareness that the child had from the time it was born until 6 months, the child has been healthy and thriving and alive, which means the child also has some sense, to keep themselves alive. Suddenly at 6 months, why is it that when we take a cup and bowl, we think that we know better? We know that how much to give. We know how much is enough. Suddenly, will the child lose that intelligence, and will they become dumb that they can't eat and figure out how much to eat on their own? No, right? So they know how much is enough for them. There's also something called division of responsibility. So division of responsibility says that because we don't know what our responsibility is, we kind of overstep our boundaries and go into the child's business and try to figure out things. So the responsibility, a parent's responsibility is to decide where the child is going to eat, where I'm going to put the chair, and where the child is going to eat, what is for food, what is the menu today. So these are the two things, where and what is only what the parent gets to decide. And it's the child's responsibility always to decide if they want to eat, and if they decide that they want to eat, how much they should eat. So that's the child's responsibility. But today, we're very confused about who's playing which role, that we tend to decide for the child about how much they have to eat. And many times, because of this overstepping, the relationship gets horrible. Very, very horrible. I've seen like children crying and eating, which makes them hate eating, which makes them hate the parent who's giving the food. But today, because of distraction feeding, I don't see a lot of children crying, which is even more harmful. We think it's just half an hour of screen time. At least I don't have to run behind them and feed them. So it's even more harmful, because now we are dulling their body's communication to us, and then we are taking complete control of their body and their meal times. So these are the two things which I want to speak about. So people will immediately have a question about what about quantity? I'm scared that they will not have enough. I'm scared about their nutrition. So one thing which we need to understand is, this is the size of my stomach. If you fold your child's hand like this, that's the size of their stomach. So you know how small it will be, this much. And how do you think, I don't know how one dosa, 2 idlis and all fit in. I really don't know. Okay, it's something for us to all think about. So the size of a child's stomach is the size of their closed fist, not even this. So how much how much are we overfeeding them is a question. Many children say no after 2-3 mouths of getting the food, and which is actually healthy, it seems. There's a lot of research which says what is acceptable quantity for a child to eat, and they say it's their age in tablespoons. Say for example, a 2-year-old child, if they have 2 tablespoons of food in a meal, it's enough. 2 tablespoons is very less, and I think all our children need more than that. And I think we have over expectations about how much a child should eat, about how much is healthy for a child. So these are things around meal times that I wanted to talk about. One next huge topic is around screen times. Obviously, that's the topic given to me also, screen time and screen time regulation. So I'm going to ask you a question which you can answer on the chat window. I want to know how many of you are aware of this. So how much do you think is the allowed screen time for children from the age of 1 to 2 years? ஒரு குழந்தை 1 வயசுல இருந்து 2 வயசு மட்டும் இருக்கிற குழந்தை எவ்வளோ நேரம் ஒரு நாள்ல டிவி பார்க்கலாம், ஸ்கிரீன் பார்க்கலாம் அப்படின்னு நீங்க நினைக்கிறீங்க? From 1 to 2 years.
So I think 0, 45 minutes.
I can see a lot of answers. So many.
30 minutes, 10 minutes, no screen time. 20 minutes.
saying, Abhilash. So the right answer is 0. A child below 2 years cannot absolutely have screen time. So that's what the World Health Organization recommends. And since we are all very adamant on following World Health Organization's recommendations for anything and everything, I think this is something that we all need to take into consideration. World Health Organization says that below 2 years, a child should not be exposed to any form of screen. Okay, this is taking into consideration all of their overall health and development and all of that. And after 2 years till 3 years, every year you only increase half an hour. So which means from 2 to 3 years, they should be ideally, I'm not sure about the number, actually, wait, I think I need to go back and revise on it, but I want you all to do your own research and find out how much screen is allowed for a 2 to 3 year old child. Okay, so why haven't I done my research on it? Because I follow a no screen policy at home till they are 7 years. So that's where my research and my reading led me to be. Okay, so I want you all to do your own research. So what is the huge deal about screen time? Why am I talking so much about screen times? We all know what are the problems, but since we have an enthusiastic bunch of young parents, I want you all to tell me, what do you think are the problems? Why do you think World Health Organization says 0 screen time? What are the problems of exposing our children to screen at a very young age? Overstimulation, okay, speech delay, deviate sleep time, not good for the eyes, passive kids, development, cognition growth delay, eyesight, brains and senses are overstimulated, hyper, addiction to screens, absolutely, okay. There's one very interesting human I met, okay. So she does extensive research on brain the relationship between screens and how our brain develops. So she was telling me that will we if we have a bar counter at home, assume that we are people who have consume alcohol in the house. She asked me a very direct question. She asked me that, will we pour out a drink from our bar counter and give it to a 2-year-old child or a child younger than 2 years? No, right? Obviously not. We will not give alcohol to our children. So then she's asked me, why are we giving them dopamine like this? Will we give them drugs? No. Will we give them alcohol? No. Will we give them tobacco? No. Then why are we giving them screens? She says screens have the same effect that all of these have on their brain and on their overall health. So I'm pretty sure all of you have already summarized maximum majority of the problems with screens, but one very important thing which you have missed out is their attention span. Okay, a child who's exposed to screens very early in age will have a very less attention span to real life things. So now imagine they're seeing a lot of cartoons. They're exposed to a lot of simulation, like lot of colors, there's music and all. Now imagine the same child who's exposed to screens for 3 years, now suddenly goes into preschool and kindergarten. Okay, so when they go into kindergarten, the teacher is going to be like me, somebody like me, who's going to talk like me, who's going to try to engage the child like me with just hands and music, and just this one person is going to be interacting with the child. So now the child will look at the teacher like this for 2 seconds, and then they're like, what? That's all. No more effects, no more sounds. And then they start looking around. And we think the child has less attention span. No, the child has been overexposed to too much of simulation. Now that the child feels normal life is very boring. They think there's nothing engaging and captivating to hold them there. Now a child who cannot concentrate and focus on real life things, how do you think they're going to learn? Are they going to learn on YouTube forever? No, right? They have to go into school. And then we are parents who are very adamant on grades. We are very, very particular about their studies. So many things. And then we don't... and then we do this also. So it's almost like setting them up for failure even before the beginning. So a child has to be able to concentrate, and we see that even at home. When you give them instructions, the child is so distracted that they can't even finish processing the instruction that you give them, and we think they're disobedient. The only thing is they're not disobedient, they didn't even hear your instruction in the first place for them to follow it. Okay, so screens, like this is one. Next thing is screens today, they show a lot of violence. You may ask me, what is the problem with violence? The problem with violence is the more and more exposed to it, the more and more insensitive we become. So the more, as adults today, because of the amount of content we are consuming on whatever platform, when we see somebody on the road who is hurt, who is bleeding slightly, we will walk past them or we will drive past them. We become so insensitive that we cannot feel the pain of another person simply because we have been exposed to it too much on screen. We see so much of violence, we see so much of violent video games, all of that, we play that game. And I'm hearing that there are the video games today are getting more and more violent, which means that we are paying our children for we are giving them points and rewarding them for killing people. So the more number of lives you take, the more better the child feels. So the more violent and aggressiveness our children show, we are rewarding them for that. So imagine which part of the brain is going to get developed for them the more and more exposed they are to the screen. So this is a huge concern, that they become very insensitive to human suffering because they see everything in 2D. They cannot really feel anything. They're just watching everything, and then they come and see somebody in real life. They will walk past because they don't know what is real and what is a game. And why speech delays happen because of screen? The logic is that when you're watching a video on YouTube, you're not talking to YouTube, right? YouTube is just playing something and you're just watching. So tomorrow when the child comes to the real world, then something is happening around the child continues to think that this is like YouTube, let them just keep talking, I don't have to respond back. That's a huge reason, because they don't get to interact with real human beings. The child is only interacting with the screen, and then it leads to speech delay simply because they don't get to practice. Anything you practice, you develop. So even speech is like that. And they say when a child is exposed to a lot of humans very young in age, they will speak sooner. That's the idea, because they keep seeing people speak, they try to imitate, they try to speak. So without screens, we notice a drastic jump in their speech skills. And the final point about screens, and why I have a personal problem with it, is because we become so detached from real world in our own homes and families that when somebody is sitting next to us, we don't even acknowledge their presence. We're so busy on our screens, and our children are watching us do that all the time. So there was a meme which I saw, which when asked to draw a picture of the family, the child is drawing a father, a mother, and the child, but the father and the mother's face is a phone, because from the child's point of view, this is what the child sees every day. So this is the drawing that the child has drawn. There is a phone and then there is a body. Okay, so this is something that I keep talking about. What are we showing our children? So later, in another 12-13 years, you will notice your teenage children forever like this. When you call them, they'll be like, okay, anything is okay. Okay, ma, bye. Okay, bye. This is the only conversation you'll be having with them. Okay, so these are things for us to consider around screen times. So people who have exposed their children to a lot of screen times, I'm not somebody who guilts parents into giving screen times. Anything in moderation is absolutely okay. But you need to have limits around screens. You need to be conscious about the content they are consuming, because they're exposed to a lot of adult content also, children these days. So the problem is they become adults too quickly. So when they become adults too quickly, who gets to live their childhood? Nobody. So today children 3-year-old, they behave like 30-year-old because of the content they are consuming only. So, but when will they get back their 2-year-old and 3-year-old? They will not. From 3 years, they are behaving like 30 means, and at 30 they'll be 60. So they'll only have adult related things going on around them. So that's a huge concern. Then what do we do? So have limits around screen times. They will be crying the moment you stop screens. So I always say, after, if 30 minutes is your screen time limit, at 20 minutes tell them, after 10 minutes, we are going to, switch off the TV and we are going to do this. We are going to move away. We're going to go out. So the child has to have something more exciting than the screen for them to leave the screen and come. Exactly like adults, exactly like us. We will feel disappointed when our screen time ends. We will want to see that one more video which has so much more information. We will want to read that one more post which will be our lifesaver. We keep thinking thoughts like that. So exactly the same with children. So before 10 minutes, tell them 10 more minutes. So you finish by then, and even after telling them, then you switch off the screen or take it away from them. There is going to be cry. There is going to be frustration coming up for children, which I always say that it's okay, it's healthy. So when you pull when somebody now walks into this room and takes away the screen in front of me, I am going to be upset. I am going to be frustrated. I am going to scream and be angry and show all of my emotions because I was involved in something. So I say it's normal, and we just allow those emotions to be. So this brings me to the next biggest myth that we need to break, that if we allow children to cry, they will become crybabies. Okay, this is not true. Children cry because it's a human emotion. Okay, so when we have a problem with crying. As adults, we think if we allow the child to cry, it's a failure. As a parent, we think they will become adamant children when they grow up. We think they'll have all sorts of issues which are not even true. The only issue that you see in any therapist consultation today is suppressed emotion. Because you were not allowed to feel this and this and this in your childhood, you have stored this and this belief in you, which we will unlearn today and relearn new better things. This is what any therapist will tell you if you go to them. So expression of an emotion is never a problem. Rather, suppression of an emotion is always a problem. So one thing which we constantly keep telling at home is all your emotions are acceptable, but certain behaviors are not. You cannot hurt another person because you're angry. You cannot take it out like that just because you're angry. So we discussed ways in which we can take out our anger in a healthy way. So these are ideas I think any adult, any human being will feel comfortable with. So we just try to do that with the child. So this is another big thing that I want to talk about: crying, anger, frustration. We want our children to be happy all the time, which is not humanly possible, because we know for sure, because we feel so many human emotions from morning till night, and then we expect babies who come out of us to only be happy all the time, to be only obedient all the time. So I want my child to listen to me. Okay, and my answer always to this will be two things. One is how much do you listen to your child? And when I say listen to your child, I don't mean give them whatever they're asking you. When they say I want a chocolate, my answer will be obviously chocolate limit is crossed. So that's why we're having this conversation. So I want a chocolate, I want a sweet. My response will be, okay, so you want a chocolate right now. You feel like having a chocolate. The first thing is acknowledging what they actually want, right? Next thing is saying, no, we cannot have chocolate today because the limit is over. And then what happens is the child is obviously going to have a reaction to my boundary. So he will cry, scream, all of that will happen. And then there is nothing for me to do. I'm just sitting there with my child, acknowledging again, okay, you're upset that I said no to chocolate. So then this is the process that we have. We somehow think the moment the child asks for something, either we give it to them because we want to avoid the crying and the tantrum. That is spoiling the child. 100% spoiling the child, simply because we cannot take the responsibility to say no and face the emotions that come after that. We take the easy path. We take the shortcut and say, okay, come, just have it and give me some peace. When you do that, that's definitely spoiling the child. But when you actually accept an emotion which is right in front of you, I don't think that's spoiling anybody. So this is something that I want you all to think about. Everything is food for thought. There is nothing like this is the right way to do it, this is the wrong way to do it. So why I think this is okay, I'll give you another example. I feel like going on a vacation, and I'm telling this to my partner. I'm like, Kati, I feel like going on a vacation today. And there are two responses he can have. First response is, are you crazy? How can we go on a vacation in this pandemic? Are you even kidding? Do you know my work schedule? I've been talking about my work schedule for so long, and you want me to take a break for a week. Are you nuts? This is reaction number one. Reaction number 2 can be, okay, so you feel like you want a break because you've been parenting for so long and you single-handedly doing so many things, you feel like you deserve a break. And obviously I'll be like, yeah, I want a break. And then he could say something like, okay, but right now I am very jammed with work. Can we work this in small bits? Can we take a break for a day and then one more day next month? Will that work for you? So these are the two types of conversations he could have with me. And obviously, anybody will like the second option, right? Any day. And why is it different with our children? Why do we, the moment they say something, Amma, I'm feeling cold. Are you crazy? How can you feel cold? It's so hot out there. Why do you want to wear a sweater when you have to go out in the hot sun? Pick a sleeveless. So anything they say, the first response that we have as adults is no. You are not okay. You are not enough. You are not worthy. This is the message we keep telling them with our communication. Okay, so how much of our children do we listen to and do we accept? So when I say listen to children, immediately people think that I want them to do whatever the child is doing, because somehow listening is thought of as obedience in our culture. Listening to somebody means obeying somebody, but actually listening to somebody means accepting, hearing what they're saying, giving them the space to have that, and then processing your reaction with them. This is a definition of listening. But I think because of the culture that we have, that listen to me, na sonna kelu, it's thought of as obedience, but actually hearing somebody means 100% deeply listening to somebody. And in my own space, in my own work, in my own life, with my own children, the only magic that I constantly keep seeing is if you accept a person for who they are, they will only bloom and show you the best versions of themselves. If we take away shame, threatening, bribing from the relationship, you will only see the relationship getting better. This is true for any age group. It can be true for your in-laws, it can be true for your spouse, it can be true for your children, it can be true in your workspace. This is the human truth. If you think about it, this is what you crave. Everybody wants only this. Why do we want our children to behave well? Because when they behave well, we feel good, we feel included, we feel part of something, we feel like we're doing some meaningful work. This is the deeper emotions behind a obedient child that we have. If that is your need, the thought is you don't have to force your child to listen to you. There are other ways for you to meet your needs. Okay, so this is one thought. So, and the last point that I wanted to talk about, one more mistake that we keep doing is we punish our children by giving them rewards. If you eat this, I will give you a sweet. If you do this, if you behave properly today, if you speak to your relatives well today, if you behave like a good boy or a good girl, I will take you to the play center tomorrow. I will take you to the park tomorrow. So if you sit quietly for half an hour, I will give you this phone for you to play a game. Okay, this is thought of as a good parenting strategy, but it is not. Why? Because there are so many layers to this about why this is wrong. Some things I will discuss with you. So the first thought which comes to the child is, oh, so am I thought of as bad? So they have to give me some gift for me to be good. This is the first thought process a child will have, that I am a bad person, so there must be something given from outside for me to do good, which is not true. Children are, whatever that you give them, whatever you are asking of them, they are capable of doing all of those things without these external, dangling things that you show in front of them. It's not necessary. So the long-term consequences of this is that a child will keep expecting something from every person they meet in the long run. So, which is not practically possible. As adults, we all know how disappointed, how hurt, and how messed up we are simply because we are expecting validation from somebody outside of us, somebody to tell us that you are a good human being, you did good work, you are worthy of taking up space on planet Earth. We need somebody from outside to tell us, so we feel like, okay, all of this is okay, all of this is true. So long-term consequences is we will be needy, we'll be clingy for external things to keep us happy. So I'm pretty sure we don't want that for our children. So I think we need to stop doing this bribing technique with our children, that I will give you this if you do that. And the opposite of that is also true, threatening them. If you do this, I will take away that, is also a punishment which has long-term consequences for our children. So they start to think that our love is very conditional. So if you give me a bunch of children today, and if I talk with them, and if I ask them, do your parents like you? You will be shocked by the answer that they'll give you, because I have had this conversation with many children, and they tell me, yeah, my parents like me, but I have to finish my plate, I have to do my homework on time, I have to behave well, I have to keep my room neat. If I do all of those things, my parents will like me. Okay, it's very heartbreaking, because that's not any parent's intention. As a parent, our intention is, if you do this, or even if you don't do this, I will love you. Whatever it is, I will love you. My whole existence, not whole existence, at least a big part of my existence revolves around you for your well-being. When this is our thought, how did this get communicated like that to the child? Because of our communication. We are constantly telling children, do this, behave like that, only then you will get my approval. Okay, constantly, that's the way we, every day from the moment they wake up till the time they go to bed, we keep pushing them, controlling them, pushing them, pulling them, all of these things we do. And the child constantly feels like, my parents don't like me. I have to be in a certain way for them to like me. If I do this, they will not like me, they will hate me. And you will see all of these patterns coming up when you take therapy, when you take help, when you grow up. When you sit with a counselor and talk, they will slowly tell you that all of this is not true. Somehow it's a cycle, They were perfect when they are born. Somehow with our parenting strategies and techniques, and out of habit and conditioning, we put so many wrong ideas on them, and then we start making them question themselves. Am I worthy? Am I a good child? All of these questions we put into them. And then when they're 30, they have to go sit with somebody and then unravel all of this and figure out that, I'm a good person. They come back to feeling whole again. So parenting has a huge role to play in how children feel about themselves. There is a beautiful quote which I want to finish with. The more and more you criticize your child, the more and more you hurt your child, the more and more you punish your child, the child will not stop liking you. The child will, start to stop liking themselves. They will have a very bad relationship with them. They will have a good relationship with you, like how we all do today. If you ask any adult, they'll be like, I love my parents. I will do anything for them. Even at this age, whatever happens, if we may not be talking today, but if they fall sick or if they need me, I will be the first person there for them because I love them. So the relationship between the parent and the child is never in question. The relationship always is how the child feels about themselves, like how all of us feel today about ourselves. Yeah, we don't want that repeating for our children. So this is food for thought for all of us. If you are thinking that if I don't respectfully raise my child, if I don't do gentle parenting, will my child start hating me? Will they have a bad relationship with me? Never. Even if you thrash them, hit them like our parents did, we will continue to have a great relationship with them. Only thing the questionable thing is, what will they think about themselves? So the quote is, I'm not exactly quoting, but this is my understanding of the quote. The more and more we criticize our children and put them down, it's not that they will stop liking us, they will stop liking themselves. Okay, so the inner voice will give them wrong messages, their own inner voices. So we're opening for questions. You can type in the chat window. I'm going to take a few questions. Just as you keep typing the questions, I'm going to take a couple of more minutes to talk about DLearners. So DLearners are the people who are holding the platform for us today to have this discussion. And we have with us Abhilash, who is the marketing person for DLearners. So what are they marketing? I'm not somebody who usually associates with a brand or with a concern, But when DLearners approached me and they explained to me about what they are doing, I could connect on a very deeper level with them. So DLearners, the full form of DLearners is different learners. Okay, they focus on giving educational aids and giving educational material for dyslexic children. But how do I find out if my child has dyslexia? First thing is, if you notice that your child is academically behind, if you are constantly getting complaints that he's not concentrating, he's not studying, he's not writing well, he's not able to read, as they grow older, maybe in first grade, second grade, you will see a prominent difference in their abilities to catch up with their peers. When you notice that, I'm not sure about the age group. I'm sure Abhilash will guide you on the perfect age group. I've not done my research on dyslexia, but it's my personal experience I'm sharing. So when you notice that, DLearners is giving you a free screening. When you have a point of concern, when you have a doubt, it's best to screen your child and find out if they fall in the spectrum of dyslexia. So dyslexia in itself is not a disability. Somehow dyslexia has gotten the idea that it's bad. It's they are challenged, they are handicapped in some ways. It's always thought of as dyslexia has been put into ADHD, ADD, autism spectrum. It's somehow put into that category, but it's not. Dyslexia is just people with differently learning abilities. So they just need newer tools to help them figure out academics. Okay. So it's almost like expecting an elephant to walk. An elephant to fly. There is no problem with an elephant. If we ask it to walk, it will walk beautifully. Only thing is we are expecting it to fly. So we need to figure out that what is what and how to go about this, so that it will make your parenting easy. It will make your relationship with your child absolutely normal. So why I'm talking so much about this is because my brother was dyslexic and he was undiagnosed for a very long time. So we were trying to put a dyslexic child into a normal setup and trying to push him to study in the normal way, which he found was very difficult. So for people who don't know what I'm talking about, if you have seen Tare Zameen Par movie, you will know what dyslexia is, right? If that child got an Amir Khan, so the movie ended well. Not all children get an Amir Khan in their life. So it's better if we have that access, and I think DLearners could be a huge help to fill the gap.
So the age we from 5 years now, we have students from the age of 5 years to 12, 13 years, we'll be able to do it. And the one more thing is we have an application for this free screening. So India the identification we are the only platform to do it for free of cost, and we give the report, a free detailed report or counseling session. Everything is done through a foundation called Blink Foundation, and everything is for free of cost. And we have around world-class special educators available with us to help your children. The goal of the program will be to since we don't, like you said, special children or disability or anything. They all learn differently, they all think differently. So our teachers teach them differently, and thereby we make them independent learners, reading, writing, and spelling.
So a big core of my work focuses on not letting any child be alone, like my brother felt. He used to feel very isolated, very alone when he was growing up, simply because he couldn't get marks academically. So his entire childhood was around how much of a big failure he was. When actually today as an adult, he's doing very well as an adult today. So when looking back, it seems ridiculous that we put him through so much trauma just because he was a differently abled learner. That's about it. And today he's as normal as anybody would be. If only somebody had shown the way to my parents, to me, to how to be of support to him, things would have been very different for him. So my work, not just around dyslexic children, any child, I don't want them to feel like they are neglected, they're pushed to a corner for something which is very normal. So yeah, reset the damage I did for my child so far. So any relationship gets better the moment we set the intention that we want it to be better. And I think anybody responds to genuine genuine warmth and affection. So for parents who constantly are angry and agitated and irritated with the child, the question is, how happy are you as a human? So when you have anger, irritation and frustration as part of you, they are not wrong things. Absolutely not. Like how I told for the child, crying, anger, frustration are not wrong when seen in adults. They are trying to tell you something. Constantly your anger is telling you that one need of mine is not met. Why are you not meeting my need? So that is what anger is trying to tell you. Have we ever sat with our anger and asked the anger that, okay, what do you want? What are you trying to tell me? What am I not giving you that you are agitated about? So when you answer deeper questions like that, I think you are in a path to give yourself whatever you need, so you will be able to do the same to your child without you taking care of yourself, taking care of your needs, taking care of whatever it is that your heart and soul is calling out for. Without doing that, how do you think you will be able to give your child? It's not possible. So the first person that we need to address is every single parent. So when I talk about mistakes and myths in parenting, it's so easy to think that parents are doing all the mistakes. No, a lot of mistakes have been done to parents, which means as parents today, we need a lot of support for us to raise healthy children. So my advocacy has gone from advocating for children to advocating for parents. So that's the kind of understanding I've got after so many years. It's not that parents get up in the morning and put a list of how do I be a terrible parent today? What parenting mistakes can I do today? Nobody gets up with that thought. We all want to do our best. But then what is not letting us do our best is that we put ourselves as last priority in the family. It won't work like that. You have to be your number one priority. You have to take care of yourself. You have to put yourself in a better frame of mind before you parent anybody for that matter. It can be your spouse, it can be your in-laws, it can be your own self, because that's a lot of what is happening today. So when you don't do it to your own self, we cannot go on and on like this in the long run. We are not machines, we are human beings, which means we have to take care of our needs. So when you do that, automatically children also follow suit. You will be able to parent them in a better frame of mind. Don't wait for somebody to come and make you happy. Utter failure never happens. I've been waiting for 32 years, nobody showed up, including my own parents. They can't. Only I have to decide that I want to be happy and take the effort to keep myself in that frame of mind. Okay, my baby is hardly 8 months. When I say no for screen time, my family says it is must for them to be exposed to everything around them. Okay, so Padmasni, it's better that you start speaking to everybody. Tell them that they will have academic issues when they are growing up, that they cannot study well. So the moment somebody realizes that it's going to affect a child's learning abilities, everybody is like, oh my god, learning abilities, aapko kandipa no screen. Because everything revolves around getting good marks, getting good salary, and that is thought of as success in today's world. Then that is the blueprint given to us. Play by the blueprint. Be smart, play by the blueprint. Okay, how can I get in-laws and parents to not give screens to baby? Same. Okay, so tell them that they will not study well, that they will be behind in class, that they will not be smart. Mallam bayam pottingena, they will be like, oh, okay. Dina, you so create a lot of awareness around this. Share a lot of articles around this. Keep talking about it. Bring in your pediatrician. Pediatricians usually are, aware of impacts of screen time for children. So they usually keep saying, no. So sometimes while working and being constantly disturbed, we tend to take out the frustration. How to avoid this? So for working parents, I always say that planning works. Also, you need to understand that you are doing too many things, which means you have to spend more time with your own self. Because you are working, you're taking care of the family, you're taking care of the child, which means it's so easy for you to get depleted. The time that you do something for your own self is so little that you tend to get frustrated. So frustration is telling you something, telling you that look at me, take care of my needs before you start giving to other people. So it's best that you plan ahead, prepare ahead. Planning helps a lot for working mothers. Understand that if you have the luxury, if you have the privilege of not working, you can take a break. please notice that this is normal also. Please understand that it's absolutely okay to take a break for a few years till your children are more independent. So then you can go back to work without doing a lot of things at the same time. This multitasking is overrated. Okay, it's the game of the capitalistic, commercialistic idea that the more GDP, that is the more earning capacity a family has, the more they will spend. So the more we spend means more products they are trying to sell us. So this is the idea of wanting to push two people in the family to earn. Okay, so who is getting all the money that you are earning? Please notice that also. Where is all your money going off? When all that you know hard earned money, who's enjoying the luxuries of your hard earned money? About eating and the child being cranky, I always say that the child has to understand there is an emotion called hunger, and hunger is an emotion. They have to feel hunger. They have to understand that it makes them feel terrible in the body. To understand that it makes them become cranky, and then when they eat food, they have to understand that it makes them feel better. So this is the relationship we need to have with the children. We have to understand that you have to understand this cycle, and the more you keep feeding them when they are cranky, it only tells them that some food will somehow come to my mouth when I behave like this. Okay, so when you notice that children get cranky, offer them food like half an hour before. Keep offering, let it be there in the open. They can, they have to have access to food around their hunger times. So by now, I think all of us have a good understanding of when the child becomes hungry and cranky. Okay, so yeah, forcing them or pushing food on them to avoid the crankiness it will have, it could have them have a bad relationship with food and also around us. Okay, so have lot of snacks around the house, healthy snacks, nuts, dry fruits, peanuts, all of that. We always say a grazing tray. So there is a tray with cut carrots, cucumber, nuts, which is there accessible to the child at all times. Okay, so between meals, if they feel hungry, the child should be able to reach out to it. Okay, so sorry, I got it from the question. What do we do when a 4-year-old snatches toy from a 2-year-old and screaming and scaring the younger one? Sangeeta, so we've spoken about this on Instagram, on my feed. You can see how I usually tackle my children when they are snatching and pulling toys. First thing that I do is I understand that this is normal. Between a 4-year-old and 2-year-old, they will be grabbing, they will be screaming. So I don't interfere in it till I have to interfere in it. So when both of them are pulling toys and screaming, I just watch for a while till there is a lot of physical violence. When I have to go and separate them is when I go and separate them. Otherwise, I usually don't play the role of a referee and give yellow card. I never say, you are the elder one, give it off, give it to her. Conjunero, she'll play and give it off. Why do you have to be so difficult? Andamari, I never speak to my elder one. And even to my younger one, I'll never say, wait, I'll get it from him and give. So this kind of puts the relationship between me and the children very difficult. It makes it become worse because now my elder child, already he's been telling people that Amma likes Sarah more. Somehow he's gotten the idea that since she's smaller, we're favoring her more. So when we do this in the long term, I think their relationships will be questionable. Their relationship with me will be questionable, all of that. So I don't play the role of a referee. Usually when I see a scene like this and they look to me, I don't tell them, I don't become this panchayat head and tell them who's right, who's wrong. I usually just comment on what I'm saying. So you'll notice me playing the role of a commentator. Like in a cricket match, when you hear the commentary, you'll never know which side the commentator is supporting. They will just be like a neutral person commenting on whatever they say. So usually when I see a scene like this, I'll be like, okay, so there is one toy and 2 people want to play with it at the same time. There's no judgment, there is no criticism. There is nothing when I'm just observing and stating, and both of them feel like, okay, she understood, we have a problem. Whether child follow mainly parents or other family members also, because in a joint family, we as his parents will change for him, but we can't force others. Absolutely not, Sukanya. So don't have everybody in the house don't have to follow your philosophy. It's enough only if you do. If one person, so it's enough if one person is there for the child, like how we discuss about today. That makes a world of a difference. Looking back, no, when we were growing up, all we wanted was this one person. We didn't want the whole family to understand us, accept us, love us. And all. For us, just that one person would have made the difference. So I think it's more than enough if you follow this, whatever you feel comfortable with. Everybody can do whatever they want. Because when you try to change anybody else in the family to match your ideology, first thing that happens is your relationship with that person becomes very strained. That's not what we want for our children. We want to have a joint family. We want to have everybody living peacefully in the house. So that's the right environment for the child. And it's not in our control. That is not what we can control. Somebody else's reaction, somebody else's belief system. It's not in our control. Only they can decide how they want to behave. And what is in our control is our thoughts, our actions, our words when we communicate with our child. So let's focus on that. And I think that's very consuming in itself without having to worry about other people. I don't have time to figure out my own shit. Where do I have time to advise good things for other people? So that's also one more point for us to consider. How much can I control? How much can I change? Okay, so how to diverting the children from doing something repeatedly which is not a good habit. Okay, so Karpagavali, it takes a long answer to reply for this. So I'll give you a shorter answer is that when we listen, when we accept the child for who they are, you will start seeing difference in the way they are behaving. Okay, so How to Talk to Children So They Listen is an amazing book for all of you to check out. Okay. Yeah, so handling tantrums the same way I told you. They will have emotions. They will have big emotions most of the times. The only thing which works is allowing the emotion to be. By allowing, I don't mean you allow them to behave in whatever way. Like I said, all emotions are okay, but certain behaviors are not acceptable. Okay, so I live in a joint family, and my baby learns everything from my brother-in-law daughter, and a lot of tantrums has increased now. She wants everything immediately. As she asks otherwise, start to throw everything and also starts to beat. Okay, so 1.5-year-old, she's not learning it from her cousin. She's doing it because she's 1.5-year-old. Even without having any influence, my children behave the same way. We live in a nuclear family, so they behave the same way. It's not that she's doing it because she's exposed to other children. These are not things children learn. This is very normal and natural given their brain. How to stop them from beating? I think it's a very age-appropriate beating, hitting, throwing, aggression. All of that is very age-appropriate. We don't have to figure out the reason. Just know that when they get older, they behave better. Is it compulsory to be a parent, to become a parenting coach? I think yes. I somehow think that your perspectives, your thought process is entirely different when you are a parent. So I thought everybody were terrible parents. I thought I will do an amazing job when I become a parent, till I became a parent. Okay, now I know how hard it is. So it's people. I personally feel the way people relate to you is different if you're a parent and you're a non-parent. How to give medicine without force feed? Yeah, so I don't know the answer for that because I stopped giving medicines because it was a hassle to give them medicines. So I went against the system and I said I will become a naturopathic person. I will look for natural ways of dealing with illnesses. Okay, so how to become a parent coach? I have answered this on Instagram. You can go check my highlights. So I did told about the course which I attended. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Your kids will teach you to be a better parenting coach. How to control external triggers for parents, which also affects parents' mental health and affects kids also. So Pavitra, the question is very interesting because again, speaking about control, how much is in our control and how much is not in our control. So make a list of it. What is in your control, what is not in your control, and what is in your control. Again, make a list about that and see how much you want to change in that and how much is hard for you right now, and pick the topics which are okay for you right now to work on. So this is the only thing that we can do. How diverting the child from doing something repeatedly, which is not a good habit. For example, beating or demanding. We spoke about this, right? So diverting usually doesn't work. Like now Sarah, she went down, she's crying. Not crying still, but she was crying when she went down, which means how much ever my mother diverts, in another 5-10 minutes, she will be back up crying, saying, I will not forget, I wanted to be here and you took me away. So she'll come back, she'll tell me that she didn't like what I did. And then there will be 5 minutes of me, telling her that I am here, I'm not going anywhere, I'm right here. It's just that for that 5 minutes, I wanted some time. So, I think we've taken all questions. Abhilash? Feel owner. Okay. In parenting, is it important for both the parent to follow the same parenting style? No, not at all. It's not possible actually. You try it and tell me how possible it is in Indian family setups, especially for parents to be having the same style. It's not possible. Just do what you can do, let them do what they can do. Role of sex education for children is absolutely necessary. It's like teaching physics, chemistry, math. Have you ever questioned the role of chemistry in child's education? Now, why are we questioning the role of sex education for children? And sex education is not talking about sex. I need to keep talking about telling people this, that if you think sex education is telling children what sex is, it's not. The amount of things that come under sex education will baffle you, because sex education, a comprehensive, inclusive sex education means you will be talking about menstrual health, you will be talking about private parts, you will be talking about consent, you will be talking about boundaries, you will be talking about emotional health of a relationship, you will be talking about what healthy relationships are, you'll be talking about contraceptions, you will be talking about your own sexuality, self-pleasure, masturbation. All of this comes under sex education. And then you ask me if this is necessary or not. If you look at how messed up our relationship with sexuality is as a generation, as our entire generation, you will understand. Do I know anybody who takes classes in Telugu or Kannada? Not now, but if I come across somebody, I'll definitely give a shout out on Instagram. Okay. My child insists on being present when I or my husband get dressed. She says that we dress her up, in turn, she can be present. She's almost 6. How can we address this? Let her be. This is very normal, age-appropriate behavior for a 6-year-old to be curious about grown-up body parts of others. So if you don't show her this, she will check on Google. She will ask her friend. She will ask, if you do not step up into the role of being your child's sex educator, Google will, YouTube will, the child they are playing with, they will all step into the roles and they will teach them what they know. Because Google doesn't judge anybody for asking questions. Google directly shows pictures of what they want to see without shaming the child, saying, why are you asking this? You should not ask this. Google never says anything like that. So they'll prefer Google for everything. And the thing with Google is it doesn't teach values. It only teaches what it knows. So it doesn't give family values to children. That only a parent can do. So this is why Maya Sama keeps saying that you have to be your child's first sexuality educator, because you can include even human values, your family's values into it. Nobody else can do that for you. The working parent without much family support, how to handle kids who's taking too much screen time. Okay, so like I said, you are a single working parent. which means your plate is already too full. So how do you manage is by taking help and support from other people, which means you form a community around you, you meet more single parents around you, find out how they are managing, take more paid help, like people can cook, clean, get grocery, all of that can be outsourced by you. Parenting cannot be. So pick your priorities, do things which only you can do, only those things you do. The rest of the things you allow other people to do, pay them to do it. So you have more headspace to focus on what is important in this moment right now. As children grow older, they grow away from us. They go away from us. They grow away from us. Okay. So what was hard for you today? What is hard for you today? What was hard for you 6 months back will become a breeze in another 2-3 years. Okay. Whatever took your time is taking your time today will not be as important in another few years, because you will have a lot of time with you. You will have a lot of space around you. You will have a lot of free time. You will have a lot of me time. But you cannot go back and parent your child again. So be very cautious and aware that this is a limited time offer only, that this happens only at this phase, and enjoy it when you have it, because later after 15-20 years when you look back, when you're sitting alone, how much ever we try or think, we can only live in our memories. We cannot live with our children because they will be living their lives. So when you're sitting back and thinking about memories, I want you to have memories to think about. I don't want you to have regrets of a life that you could have lived. Okay, so so single working parent, Gayatri, please take care of yourself. Please don't overdo it. Give away your work to many people. Like things which can be delegated, please be smart and delegate them. It's only for the time being. In another 3-4 years, you will be able to be the parent which they show in these advertisements of you doing everything single-handedly. Okay, it's just that in this phase, it's very hard. Okay. Is it okay to set expectations with the kid in terms of finishing his daily activities, behavior or something? How much of it is okay? Is it okay to set expectation, meaning are you trying to reward the child? Are you giving them stars? Are you giving them a good job? Are you giving them, what is it that you are giving in return is the question. Because I have expectations on Sarangan that he has to clean the table after it's done. And I'm okay with it on the days that he's not. Some days he'll be like, I don't feel like doing it. And I'm like, okay, I respect that you don't feel like doing it today. That's it. There is no shaming. There is no pushing, pulling, at least on most days. Some days when I'm irritated, all of that happens. But on most days, the intention is to not push too much. So I just let him be. And somehow he figures that it is his responsibility and role to do it. So, So I think having the expectation is normal. What is abnormal is punishing them for not living up to our standards. Okay, so have realistic expectations. Age is also issue. Abhilash is posting the link for feedback, which means I will get to hear from you about this interaction, which could go a long way in the way I deal with parents later on. So Neha asks about junk. So when this happens, we don't have access to junk at home. We don't have access to junk, which means they don't have access to junk. We don't buy junk, which means I give up on a lot of junk. And surprisingly, I've only gotten healthy by giving up my junk quota. Okay, so it's easy to say. I know it's so easy to say, don't buy junk at home. But as it is, I feel like the world is full of commercialized products when we step outside the house. So I feel very guilty if I buy junk at home also, because then even the home environment gets contaminated with factory-made products. So I try my best to at least stop there, to draw the boundary there, because once we step out, nothing is in my control. Everywhere they try and sell everything to my child. Speaking of screens, I forgot to mention how much of a breeding ground it is for them to sell products. When you allow children to watch screen, every ad that comes in between is something the child doesn't need. Notice that advertisements are done for only products which have to be pushed on people, which are not natural and normal. We don't see advertisements for fruits. We don't see advertisements for salads. Why not? Nobody gets to make a living when we eat fruits and salads. That's why. Okay. So, if children are going outside and labeled by others for their character, how to handle this? I just acknowledge, oh, avanga apdi sonnaangala, did they say that about you? And then after some time, I might say something like, but Sarangan, there were times that you were not like that also. There were times that you were kind. So my role is only to remind him that he can be any person he wants to be. If somebody has called him mean, if somebody has called him naughty, I can be this person who reminds him that there were times he's been very kind, there are times he's been very generous. So, it's so lovely to see you all on a Sunday morning, giving so much of response and being here with me. I usually say that anything given for free is not valued. Thank you for proving me wrong and for showing up in such a huge number and making me have faith in doing more and more free sessions for all of you. Okay, so thank you.
Sure, ma'am. It was a wonderful session, ma'am. A lot of eye-opening ideas and from you. I think the only setback was that we are not able to. I think there are close to 150 to 200 people trying to join, but then the licensed version allowed only 100 people. So to all others, regret inconvenience. We'll definitely share the recording. It has been recorded from the start. We'll definitely share the recording to everybody over here. And thank you so much for taking the time and speaking for 1.5 hours. Your patience is very much appreciated, and we hope we can connect a lot of webinars in the future together on topics of parenting, helping a lot of parents around the country. And for everybody, we have also shared the feedback form. Please do fill the feedback form. It will always help us and ma'am also to improve, to kind of structure the next upcoming webinar sessions and everything. Thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing weekend and all the best. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Have a good Sunday.